So the questions for this first segment are the following. Firstly, to kindly introduce yourself and share your motivation for applying to become a member of the CRPD committee. The second question, as a little preamble, the convention requires committee members to serve in their personal capacity and to be independent. And the question to this point is, could you indicate whether you currently hold or have previously held any position with or on behalf of your government, and explain how you ensure independence and impartiality? That's the second question. The third question, linked to the second, is, was the process leading to your nomination transparent and participatory? For example, was civil society, was academia, or national human rights institutions involved in the nomination process? That's the third question. Now, to the fourth and last question, Article 34.4 of the CRPD establishes criteria for the committee's composition, including balanced gender representation, equitable geographical distribution, and participation of experts with disabilities. And the question is, how is balanced gender representation as well as diversity of backgrounds relevant for the membership of the committee, its mandate, and its concrete work? And in addition, if you could please explain how your profile and expertise contribute in fulfilling Article 34.4. Thank you. So these are the questions, and I will put them in the chat right away. So I will now begin with the experts. And our first speaker is Mr. Mouannad Alazeh. Mr. Mouannad Alazeh, you have the floor.
Excellent. First, thank you very much for this opportunity. I highly appreciate it. For the first question, I am a person with a disability. I'm legally blind, so I have the living and personal experience related to disability. I'm from Jordan. I'm holding PhD degree in criminal law and bioethics, as well as a high diploma in good governance and public policy with 20 years experience in human rights, in particular rights of persons with disabilities, women rights, children rights, and I am a columnist in global and national newspapers. Second, my motivation to be in the committee, I am running for re-election. So I already spent 4 fruitful years in the CRPD committee. And my original motivation is still the same, with few additions, if you like. Being in the committee absolutely gives me the opportunity to contribute to what you already mentioned about enrich the diversity and to reflect different context, whether cultural, social, political, and also, to be honest, it helps a lot, in my opinion, to address, if you like, specific maybe cultures, but from a pure human rights angle. In another word, being from the region and talking to countries from the region, Arabic or Islamic countries, in a very scientific and critical way about some laws, about some practices. To me, this is very helpful, because this first would remove any unnecessary assumptions or quote unquote maybe agendas or whatever, because we are belonging to the same region, and I know the region very well. I know the laws and the culture and everything, but still I can address that, and I can talk directly to delegations and to the countries and governments about the gap between their legislation and also the human rights. Last but not least, the experience, the humble experience I have globally and nationally, including the last one, as I was the team leader for Jordan to organize the third Global Disability Summit with Germany and IDA. This also opened a lot of opportunities and horizons to my colleagues and myself to build on that. And it was embedded recently in our last session by approving a decision to initiate a new general comment on Article 32 international cooperation based on Amman Berlin Declaration, which is the main outcome from the Global Disability Summit. And I was honored to be selected by my colleagues to lead this working group in this general comment. For the third question, independence. I am working as a Secretary General for the Higher Council of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. It's independent entity. It doesn't belong to any ministry, but we report directly about our financial and administrative work to the cabinet because our budget is from the government. I'm very aware about being independent in that. This is why I was individually elected. Also, in my even attendance or my participation in the session, I am not in official task. It's off. It's my days off. I've been very cautious to the independence issue to the extent that I've never ever, for example, communicated or used or whatever any services or anything from our permanent mission in Geneva. I was blamed because of that, like being in Geneva without, like communicating or asking for things. But to me, this is very important for my profile, for my neutrality.
Thank you, Mr. Lazet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your points mentioned. And I now give the floor to Ms. Rigbe Gebrahawaria Agos. Ms. Agos, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Excellencies, colleagues. My name is Rigbe Gebrahawaria Agos. I'm a human rights lawyer and social work professional with over 18 years of experience advancing the rights of persons with disabilities. That is across national, regional, and international spheres. I'm also a woman with a physical disability, and my lived experience informs all aspects of my work. As a commissioner at the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, which was my recent assignment, I established its first dedicated department for the rights of persons with disabilities and older persons, and spearheaded more than 100 monitoring, investigation, and advocacy missions grounded in the CRPD standards. I've also contributed to disability inclusive legal reforms nationally, institutional reforms, and independent monitoring mechanism in line with Article 33, Sub 2 of the CRPD. And regionally, I serve as an expert member of the African Commission's working group on the rights of persons with disabilities and older persons, where I help advance ratification and implementation of the African Disability Protocol. Also nationally, I co-founded the first professional organization, Association of Persons with Disabilities, which is the Ethiopian Lawyers with Disabilities Association, and also served in the Federation of Associations of Persons with Disabilities as a deputy chair. So to talk about what I would bring as a priority, intersectionality is my priority. It's also my motivation for seeking election for the CRPD committee. It's to strengthen implementation from the intersectionality perspective and close the persistent gap between communities and lived realities, and also to bring the Global South intersectional aspect from the institutional change perspective related to my experience with the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission. With intersectionality, I've worked also on the rights of women and children, older persons, which helps me bring that aspect. In terms of independence, I have worked, as I said, I've worked as commissioner, thematic commissioner for disability rights at the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, where I impartially served, because it's an independent national human rights institution, independent of the government. So I have served in that capacity. Currently, I'm not associated with the government, or I'm not working with the government. I'm only working as a technical advisor at GIZ-AU for the Bridge Africa project on the inclusion of persons with disabilities at continental and regional level in Africa. I bring this institutional reform, separation, and I work in separation from the government whatsoever. I don't have any affiliations in that aspect.
Thank you.
Coming to the, sorry.
Yes, if you could close it within 20 seconds, that would be excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Talking about my nomination, the government of Ethiopia was in charge of consulting with OPDs and other stakeholders, and I also got the endorsement of the African Commission, African Union, at the recent session of the African Union. I'll close it here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ms. Agos. I'll now give the floor to Mr. Museg Ovsepian. Mr. Ovsepian, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, loud and clear.
First of all, thank you for organizers for this opportunity, and it's a privilege to be here alongside such strong candidates. My name is Museg Ovsepian, and I'm the candidate, Armenia's candidate to the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. About myself, I hold a master's degree in public administration, and I'm currently pursuing my second master's in civil law and procedure. And I worked in different. That's not me. Okay, maybe I can continue. Yeah, thank you. So I worked in different roles across civil society and public institutions. Between 2019 to 2020, I worked within government, where I was involved in developing the draft law on the rights of persons with disabilities. After that, together with my friends with disabilities, we established an organization called Disability Rights Agenda. It's an organization of persons with disabilities, and we saw that most disability organizations in the country were focused on service provision, and they're funded by the government, so they're somehow restricted to criticize the government whenever it's needed. So my experience combines legal and policy work, including engagement with in reforms, monitoring and care institutions, documenting human rights violations, and contributing to international human rights processes. I work with most of the UN treaty bodies as civil society representatives, consistently advocating for the inclusion of disability rights across the different mechanisms. Regarding the first question, my motivation is joining the committee. Join the committee comes from the combination of experiences. So I've seen how strong convention is as a framework, but also see how challenging is implementation. Regarding the independence, I've experienced both within government and civil society, as I mentioned, but still I'm an independent expert. I'll fully adhere to the principle, ensuring that my work is guided by the convention and human rights standards. And I'll also go beyond the minimum standards regarding to transparency, and I'll I would like to elaborate on this further if there is a specific question. And regarding the nomination process, it was based on the open call initiated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I was nominated by one of the non-governmental organizations, which I do not have affiliation with. And the last question regarding the diversity and the representation, I bring experience from a region that remains underrepresented in the committee, and also lived experience as a person with invisible disabilities, including obsessive compulsive disorder. And also as a young candidate, it's a very important topic for me to bring and reflect this generation diversity within the committee as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Ovsepian, for your presentation. I would like to now ask Ms. Dovile Yotkaite to take the floor. Ms. Yotkaite.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity also to present my candidacy. I'm Lithuanian candidate to the committee, and by the education, I'm a lawyer. And after graduation, of course, I did graduate with a criminal law professional specialization, but the work afterwards for more than 23 years, I am already working with various NGOs, disability organizations, at home with also 11 years of the leading the umbrella organization of Lithuanian Disability Forum. But also I do have the European perspective. I am board member of European Disability Forum. And even though I do not have disability, I spend all my professional career and dedicated my professional career to work with the disability community and to represent and support also people with disabilities individually in the strategic litigation cases, but also on the advocacy, policy, legal issues. So throughout those 23 years, I really engaged in all the possible reforms at home. In Lithuania, after the ratification of convention, we as an organization of persons with disabilities, we initiated and cooperated with all the governments and municipalities on the proper implementation of the convention provisions. I do have the European also perspective, as mentioned, the European Economic and Social Committee, as well as Council of Europe. I am selected as a member on behalf of Lithuanian civil society organizations, and this also contributes to my independency, since all of those competitions, I would say, including for this CRPD committee, was an open call, and it was the selection process, very clear, transparent, and the commission selected me as a candidate for all those seats. With regards to the transparency, I mentioned the selection process was transparent and open call. And to finalize, I would say that, well, it was my natural motivation to further advance the rights of persons with disabilities throughout working on the national and European level, but also on global level. I am also expert with the World Health Organization Quality Rights Toolkit, which is monitoring human rights violations in various social care and psychiatric institutions, as well as I do teach and lecture in various international courses. With regards to the composition and what I could bring is also Eastern European regional perspective, which is very much lacking in the committee. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Ms. Yutkaite. I will continue on the list. And I have on the list now Mr. Umaru Sido Noho. Mr. Noho, you have the floor.
Je suis Sido Noho Umaru. Je suis père de naissance et je suis physiothérapeute de formation. Je suis formateur à la Convention relative aux droits des personnes handicapées et aux objectifs de développement durable dans la session de Bridge ODD-CDPH. Et je viens du Sahel, du Niger. Concernant ma culture, elle a été soumise par la Fédération nigérienne des personnes handicapées, qui est l'organisation parapluie de toutes les organisations de personnes handicapées au Niger. Le gouvernement l'a accepté et pour ma motivation, au niveau du comité des droits des personnes handicapées, je dirais pour une personne aveugle de naissance du Niger, ma vie actuelle est une dette que j'ai contractée auprès des gens qui ont fondé, qui ont travaillé pour développer le mouvement associatif des personnes handicapées ici au Niger. Et ma mission au niveau du comité me permettra peut-être de rembourser ne serait-ce qu'une infime partie mes devanciers donné qui m'ont permis d'être là, d'être physiothérapeute de mon état et de contribuer à soutenir beaucoup de personnes. Concernant mon indépendance et mon impartialité, j'ai parcouru plus de 40 pays dans le monde pour partager mon expérience en matière d'inclusion. Et pour tous ceux qui m'ont connu, ils ont connu une personne qui est stricte par rapport à sa dignité, à son indépendance et à son impartialité. Je voudrais, avec la contribution de tous, apporter la perspective du Sahel au niveau du comité des droits des personnes handicapées. Comme vous le savez, nous sommes dans les urgences et les personnes handicapées qui vivent dans les situations d'urgence ont besoin de cette perspective pour pouvoir améliorer la qualité de vie des personnes handicapées et la protection. Je m'arrête là. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Noho, for your presentation. I will now give the floor to Mr. Abdelrahman Ourou Baré. Mr. Baré, the floor is yours.
Merci aux organisateurs de cet échange-là. Je suis Abdelrahman Ourou Baré, je suis juriste de formation et je suis également expert sur la mise en œuvre de la CDPH et de l'inclusion des personnes handicapées. Mon expertise est certifiée par beaucoup d'instances de l'Union de l'ONU et beaucoup d'organisations. J'ai une solide formation, une solide expertise en matière de mise en œuvre de la CDPH et je pense avoir de solides capacités en matière d'inclusion sociale, en matière d'accessibilité, en matière d'éducation inclusive, en matière d'emploi, en matière de formation, en matière de sport, en matière de culture, parce que moi, je suis également artiste musicien, en matière du sport parce que je fais du basketball fauteuil roulant et en matière de participation politique. Parce que je suis convaincu que lorsque vous n'êtes pas à la table, c'est que forcément vous faites partie du menu. Donc, il est important que les personnes handicapées soient là où les décisions se prennent afin que vraiment rien ne soit pris contre leurs droits. Ma motivation découle de ce que je viens de dire. Pour moi, ça a été toujours une aubaine, une recherche approfondie de travailler dans une institution des droits de l'homme. Et je mesure la responsabilité d'appartenir au comité des droits des personnes handicapées de l'ONU parce que c'est l'arme qui permet de mettre en œuvre la Convention des Nations Unies relative aux droits des personnes handicapées à travers le monde. Donc, ma motivation, c'est de vraiment apporter ce que je sais, mon parcours en tant que consultant indépendant, apporter cela donc au comité pour que vraiment les personnes handicapées dans ce monde-là ne soient plus des citoyens de seconde zone ou bien des enfants de l'arrière-cour. Ceci vient sur mon impartialité parce que je mesure la responsabilité d'appartenir au comité des droits des personnes handicapées. C'est un haut lieu d'expertise et il était important pour que quiconque candidate pour y appartenir soit vraiment impartial et ait des valeurs d'équité, de responsabilité, d'égalité et consorts. Par rapport au processus, je crois que les parties prenantes ont été initiées, n'est-ce pas, à la prise de décision de me donner l'honneur de porter la candidature de mon pays. Quand je dis les parties prenantes, c'est le ministère des Affaires étrangères, c'est le ministère des Affaires sociales et de la microfinance, c'est le garde des Sceaux, le ministère de la Justice, et c'est également les OSC, notamment la Fédération des associations des personnes handicapées du Bénin. Donc, l'indépendance, je suis indépendant, je n'ai aucun lien avec les institutions de la République. Je suis consultant indépendant, j'ai eu affaire à donner beaucoup d'études de formation, de communication à des institutions nationales et internationales sur la mise en œuvre donc de la CDPH. J'ai participé par le plaidoyer à la ratification de cette convention par mon pays et j'ai également contribué à la rédaction et au vote de la loi sur les droits des personnes handicapées et de la prise de ces décrets d'application dans mon pays.
Thank you, Mr. Urubare. If you could close in 20 seconds.
Au comité des droits des personnes handicapées pour que vraiment les personnes handicapées dans le monde ne soient plus laissées de côté. Je voudrais m'en arrêter là et renouveler mes remerciements à tous les organisateurs de cette conférence. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mr. Rubare, for your presentation. I will now give the floor to Mr. Karim Ouedraogo. Mr. Ouedraogo, the floor is yours.
Merci, mesdames, messieurs. Je vous remercie pour l'opportunité que vous offrez par rapport à cette initiative de présenter les candidats candidates au comité, membres du comité des droits des personnes handicapées. Je suis une personne handicapée physique de membre inférieur gauche. Je marche avec une canne anglaise. Je suis un acteur engagé dans la protection et la promotion des droits des personnes handicapées. Je suis membre d'une organisation de personnes handicapées dénommée Association Songitaba des personnes handicapées. Je viens du Burkina Faso. Précédemment, j'étais chef de département en charge de la formation, du plaidoyer, de la communication, du secrétariat permanent du Conseil national multisectoriel pour la protection et la promotion des droits des personnes handicapées, une structure créée selon l'article 33 de la Convention relative aux droits des personnes handicapées et selon la loi 012 burkinabé au niveau de son article 56. Je suis formateur sur les droits humains, les droits des personnes handicapées, l'action humanitaire inclusive, genre et handicap, mesures de handicap chez l'enfant et le questionnaire de Washington Group. Ma motivation par rapport à ma candidature, il faut dire que j'ai une expérience de 21 ans, en tout cas au niveau des protections et promotion des droits humains au niveau du Burkina Faso. Également, j'ai une forte expérience dans les politiques, l'élaboration des politiques et des projets, puisque la stratégie nationale de protection et de promotion des droits des personnes handicapées, j'étais membre du comité de rédaction, comme le rapport initial du Burkina Faso sur la mise en œuvre de la Convention relative aux droits des personnes handicapées, et le Burkina a présenté le 12 et 13 août 2024. Donc, cette expérience m'a conduit aussi à travailler avec des institutions internationales et aussi des ONG du domaine des handicap dans plusieurs domaines, notamment au niveau du recensement des personnes handicapées, au niveau aussi, comme je l'ai dit, le questionnaire de Washington Group, l'élaboration des politiques, les politiques et les stratégies. Et aussi, j'ai conduit en tant qu'expert d'audit d'accessibilité, à faire l'audit d'accessibilité au niveau des institutions du Burkina Faso, à sortir des recommandations, bien sûr, pour une mise en œuvre pour faciliter l'accessibilité des personnes handicapées. Donc, je dirais que...
Thank you, Mr. Ouedraogo. If you could conclude in 20 seconds, please.
OK. Au niveau de l'impartialité, en tout cas, les lignes directives d'Addis Abeba rappellent l'importance de l'indépendance, de l'impartialité et l'intégrité des membres des organes conventionnels dont j'exercerai mon mandat si je suis élu en toute indépendance sans recevoir d'instructions de mon gouvernement ou toute autre institution. Voilà, je veillerai au respect des normes d'éthique les plus élevées. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ouedraogo, for your presentation. I will now give the floor to Miss Mary Rabatel. Miss Rabatel, the floor is yours.
Donc, bonjour à toutes et tous. Donc, je me présente. Je suis Marie Rabatel. Je suis fondatrice et présidente de l'Association francophone de femmes autistes. J'interviens en qualité d'expert indépendante auprès d'institutions publiques françaises pour promouvoir l'effectivité des droits des personnes handicapées. Et je suis une femme autiste survivante de violences sexuelles et de discrimination liées à mon genre. Et également ancienne sportive de haut niveau, et mon engagement s'enracine vers plutôt dans une expérience vécue. Et cette expérience vécue a façonné une expertise que j'ai mis au service des droits humains avec la conviction que la Convention relative des droits des personnes handicapées constitue un levier majeur des transformations des sociétés. Ma motivation, c'est voilà, depuis plus de 20 ans, je suis engagée dans la prévention et la lutte contre les violences faites aux femmes et aux enfants en situation de handicap. Et mon action s'inscrit à l'intersectionnalité du handicap, du genre et de la lutte contre les violences, des domaines dans lesquels les droits consacrés à la Convention demeurent encore insuffisants, visibles et appliqués au sein des sociétés. Je défends une approche résolument intersectionnelle, essentielle pour garantir une inclusion réelle et effective. Et cette approche permet de mieux appréhender la complexité des discriminations et d'y apporter une réponse adaptée et durable. Dans ma motivation, il y a aussi toute cette notion de sport qui a été déterminant dans mon parcours, mais dans de nombreux parcours de personnes en situation de handicap. Il permet de construire résilience et autonomie, et l'accès au sport et l'inclusion par le sport constitue un outil puissant de transformation sociale et d'émancipation. Ma motivation, la mobilisation de la communauté, ma nomination, pardon, la mobilisation de la communauté grassroots, rendue possible par l'essor des réseaux sociaux, est composée d'associations non institutionnelles ainsi que de personnes directement concernées, m'a encouragée à présenter ma candidature. Et puis après, ma nomination a ensuite fait l'objet d'un processus de consultation interministérielle en France, avant d'être validée par la présidence de la République. Et je mène, pour répondre à la question de l'indépendance, je mène l'ensemble de mes activités de plaidoyer et d'expertise en toute indépendance, à titre bénévole, ce qui garantit la liberté et l'intégralité de mon engagement. Et pour répondre à la question, ma candidature, qu'est-ce qu'elle apporterait de plus? Elle apporterait en fait une triple valeur ajoutée, une expertise sur des enjeux encore insuffisamment visibles, notamment les violences sexuelles faites aux personnes en situation de handicap, une approche intersectionnelle essentielle aujourd'hui, et puis une capacité à relier les normes internationales à leur impact réel du terrain. Et voilà, mon objectif n'est pas de défendre des principes, mais vraiment de contribuer à ce que produisent des résultats concrets. Et ce qui n'est pas vu n'est pas compris, et ce qui n'est pas pris en compte reste une violation, et ce qui est une double discrimination auprès des personnes en situation de handicap. Voilà, je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rabatel. I will now give the floor to Ms. Villanay Remengesau. Ms. Villanay, Ms. Remengesau, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Pacific Islander from Palau, a daughter, a granddaughter, mother, a woman with a disability, and a member of many communities. I'm a survivor of gender-based violence and a global citizen shaped by lived experience. I began advocating as a child in my community, and that experience shaped my understanding that when persons with disabilities are given a voice, we do not only describe barriers, we contribute solutions. I'm a CRPD specialist with over 20 years of experience working from local to global levels. I have led disability rights work in Palau, across the Pacific, and internationally. I bring expertise on CRPD implementation, accessibility, inclusion, and climate-related disability rights. My motivation is both personal and professional. I want to ensure that the rights in the Convention are not only recognized but experienced in people's daily lives. What also motivates me is the missing link in the CRPD committee. I come from the Pacific, a region that has never had a seat on the committee. With over 200 reviews that have been conducted without Pacific perspectives within this committee, I bring knowledge system shaped by small island realities, community indigenous knowledge, and frontline climate impacts. In terms of experience, I have not held a position within the executive branch of the government, and I fully understand that the committee members serve in their personal capacity. My work has required me to engage with governments while maintaining independence, and I'm committed to acting impartially, basing my decisions solely on the convention and evidence. In the Pacific, we have small populations. My own country has around 18,000 people. This poses a challenge when it comes to independence and conflict of interest, but I remain committed to bring a strong commitment and a practical understanding of the Addis Ababa guidelines to the role. My candidacy reflects engagement with civil society and disability community and is grounded in meaningful participation. I bring expertise, lived experience, and a perspective that can strengthen the committee's work and ensure real impact. Accessibility and inclusion must be built in from the start. Inclusion must be designed, not added later. It must be started. Persons with disabilities must be included at all stages, from the beginning to the end. The mandate of the committee is to advise on international best practices and help with interpretations of international law around CRPD. Without the Pacific voice, especially in relation to climate change, that mandate cannot be exercised in a way that fully accounts for the fact that human rights are universal and interdependent. Again, the Pacific is still missing in the CRPD committee. In closing, I'm a disability rights advocate from Palau with over 2 decades of experience advancing inclusive governance, human rights, and CRPD implementation at national, regional, and international levels. I bring experience as a woman with a disability alongside leadership across civil society, regional organizations, and young processes. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mengesau, for your presentation. And I will now give the floor to Ms. Fatino Utumapu. Ms. Utumapu, the floor is yours.
Warm talofa from Samoa, the heart of the Pacific. My name is Mata'afa Fatino Utumapu, and I currently serve as the General Manager for Nuanua Lelofa, the National Advocacy Organization of Persons with Disabilities. Well, I believe that the UN CRPD Committee is a mechanism that is based on the values and principles of full and effective participation, autonomy, equal opportunity, to name a few, with its core role to ensure that the voices of persons with disabilities are recognized in all efforts and obligations of states. With this in mind, that motivates me to advocate for this position. I realize that the voices of persons with disabilities in the Pacific are missing. With that, it is critical that they are included. Otherwise, we are not achieving the leave no one behind principle. I believe that the role of the UN CRPD Committee is to ensure that it provides general comments as well as guiding principles to support countries in implementing CRPD. And I want to be part of this process to ensure that the voices of the Pacific, including my own country, is recognized. I am blind and very independent, and that I bring lived experience as a person who is blind since birth. And that means that I understand the barriers as well as the solutions that are required for persons with disabilities to recognize their rights. In terms of independence, while I serve as the representative of persons with disabilities in the National Human Rights Institution, this is an independent arm of government which serves to ensure that the rights of all persons, including those with disabilities, are recognized. In terms of my motivation, well, I have 20 years experience in enhancing the rights of persons with disabilities, both as the general manager of Nwonwale Alofa, where I advocated for the implementation of the first ever social protection program for persons with disabilities, integration of the Washington Christians into the national data collection efforts, as well as the ratification by our own country of the International Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I'm also a trainer and advisor of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, where I train Pacific countries as well as UN agencies and government of Samoa on the principles of the convention, as well as the various barriers and the solutions to better support persons with disabilities. I believe with all these being said, I have the potential in being a person to be nominated by our own country as well as the Pacific as part of the UN CRPD committee. I thank you.